So I think since I last saw your portal, it certainly moved forward in terms of both the number of biodiversity records and the the reach of the data. I see Ciro's asking, has raised his hand. Ciro, would you like to go ahead?
Okay, thank you, Sam and Paul. Great to see you virtually again, Sam. And thank you for that very impressive presentation. What you have done is really quite something that many of us who are also trying to develop portals are trying to aspire to achieve. I have a couple of questions and just get a feeling of what's happening on your end. In 2019, 2020, we have had a lot of rains in the at least in the Rift Valley regions of Kenya, and I believe also around Lake Victoria, there has been a lot of rain and a lot of flooding, and I don't know how that is impacting the perception of wetlands, because at the moment in the Kenya, at least on the local level, people are having a lot of problems with the rising lakes. All the Rift Valley lakes are very high. There's a heavy flooding around Lake Victoria, flooding that has never been seen for half a century. So most of the homes have been wiped out. So I don't know how that is going to impact perception of wetlands. And I don't know if the situation that has been experienced on this end is also happening on your side. Maybe I will also ask the second question. I noticed that you mentioned that you are hosting your website or your data with the Amazon, and I was trying to access from my end, and it was pretty slow, very slow to access. So I don't know whether that is because of Amazon hosting, or is there something happening that you can explain? Because I was expecting that if it's on Amazon, it should be pretty fast. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ciro. Very, very nice to be in touch again. Well, Amazon, I'm not sure. Maybe, as I said, we have a big storm still going on here in Rwanda. I don't know if it is linked here, but you are right. I don't know. It is because it is not hosted here in Kigali. It is in Amazon. Is it linked to Amazon? I don't know. But I'm going maybe to comment on the first question. Jean-Paul, if you can maybe have something to say on Amazon. That is something we need to check. For the wetlands in East Africa, around Lake Victoria, and it is a big problem. Basically, the trend is very bad because the wetlands, they are a target for agriculture. I think many countries, there is now a big need to increase agriculture production, and the wetlands remain one of course, the targets. And you are right. With climate change, a lot of floods. We see more and more the effect of flooding being more marked in the wetlands. One of the reasons being that actually the wetland vegetation, which was like a sponge to reduce the flooding, this vegetation is no longer there. I think it is a big issue. And when you look at the ongoing ecosystem restoration, many countries in the region are engaged in very good programs of landscape restoration, but this is more focusing on terrestrial ecosystems and less on wetlands. And because again, the restoration is understood as a tree planting mostly, and of course, tree planting doesn't target the wetlands. So we need innovative solutions for wetland restoration, sustainable use of the wetlands. And it is a big challenge, how to use the wetlands in a sustainable way so that the wetlands can retain the functions, the integrity we have been talking about here. We don't have many initiatives. So wetlands are seen as a target for exploitation, for production, but we don't have many initiatives where we are looking at the wetland sustainable use. Maybe that is beyond this group in terms of biodiversity data and so on, because it is more about the integrated interventions where actually you try to save the biodiversity, where you can protect some of the wetlands, where you can use sustainably some of the zones. So it is a big challenge, I agree with you.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Jeremy, I think you had a question, and then Kevin, and then Vincent. Jim?
Cool. Thanks, Helen. I've actually got about 5, but I'll try and keep it down to 1 so that I don't hug the dance floor. Yeah, thank you so much for 2 or 3 wonderful presentations. It's so nice to see a project that's achieved so much and that's been working at this for such a long time, especially for some of us, you know, more recent grantees. So my question kind of dovetails off from one that came up in the chats, which was from Beth. So Beth asked, have you published anything on the use of these? So on the use of the platform. And I guess, you know, my question is kind of stems from that, which is how do you track the impact of the data that are coming out of this system? Obviously, you explained how this system caters for different kinds of end users with the real focus on decision making and management. But how do you actually gauge? How do you actually track how the ARCOS data get used in conservation or decision making, particularly, I guess, at a national level? I think it's something that we'll all be quite interested in. Thank you.
Can I respond now?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Jean-Paul.
Yeah, thank you for good questions, Jeremy and colleague. Yeah, starting from the question of Jeremy, how do we track the use of data we publish on the ABIMIS portal or even on GBIF? This is a very good question. When you go, I was going to share the screen on how the data and show you this screenshot on how the data looks on GBIF. Almost this data we have published, there is a site beside the data we published. There is a number of people who have used them for producing papers, publishing papers. So I can myself use the data to produce a document, but others globally in other corners of the world, they can use this data to produce documents and inform the decisions everywhere in the world. So there is on GBIF, there is a number of people who have used your data for publishing, and they put a reference. They put a reference. They reference the publisher to recognize the work he has done. And also looking at the country level, we have not yet measured the impact at country level. For example, when you look at this data mobilized on wetland ecological integrity in Rwanda, looking at the document we have produced, we are still on the way to inform decisions. We are not sure if there are some that will be accepted to be used. But for example, if you download the Kigali City Wetland Master Plan, you can see some data used to produce the ecological aspect of the wetlands in Kigali City. This is the first document. We hope also if we manage to publish this biodiversity on other side of wetlands in Rweru, in Kirehe, if they are maybe they accept to produce the wetland management plan, they shall use this data, the information we are giving them. So like that, we shall be able to track. Looking at the question asked about how the rain is affecting Rwanda wetlands, the same as it is also being used affecting the region. If you have seen in my presentation on the current status of land use change between 2008 and 2018, you have seen that the water body has gained a lot comparatively to natural vegetation and agricultural land. So this gain of water body is associated by heavy floods that comes from up hills in the mountains of Rwanda, because wetlands normally they are at the low plateau in the east, and also where they are in high mountains, they are at a lower level. The altitudinal gradient is very, very small. So all of the water, they are in the wetlands. In addition to what Dr. Samuel said, the exploitation of wetlands, or wetland vegetation, which was proposed to play the role of the sponge to retain water. The exploitation is very massive, as I have shown in the picture in the presentation. People are harvesting wetland resources to go and apply in agriculture up hills, but also the burning of wetlands, the using for brick making, as the using of charcoal and water and the firewood is banned in Rwanda. So they are looking for alternative they can use to continue brick making. So the floods mainly are associated, of course, to climate change. We have been receiving a lot of rains these past years, as our friend said. So these floods, they are a sign of climate change, on how climate change is affecting the wetlands in general. Regarding where the Amazon hosting has something to do with the slow movement of the website, I have shown that we have two categories of hosting. We use two instances. One instance is using a small scale bundle, and it works during the night. As we are still in the testing, it works during the night when we know that people searching data on the website, they are few. And during the day, we are using this free extra large instance, where we know that everyone, maybe many people need to download things on the website. So during this testing period, it may depend on the period of time we have searched the data, but also it may depend on the internet on your computer. For example, now when I log on the ARCOS website, it is from my office now. By this time, it is I'm getting there very quickly. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean-Paul. That's great. Shall we move on to Kevin?
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm Kevin with the National Museums of Kenya. Many thanks, Jean-Paul and Sam, for your presentation. And I must admit the portal is quite impressive. My question is very short. What are you using for the buffer zone? Like in my country, the government at some point used to use tea plantations as buffer zones. In this case, what are you having in your buffer zones?
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Basically, it is not us, but in general, in the country, you have different types of buffer zone plantations dominated by agroforestry species. And this is one of the problems because agroforestry or even bamboos are not the right species. What we advocate for is to actually, when we are talking about buffer zone or restoration, it is good to look at the ecological conditions, to look at the original vegetation, and as much as possible use indigenous species. But the reality is that most of the projects, they are very limited in funding, limited in time, limited in knowledge. So even when it is possible to put some of these indigenous or agroforestry species, is better than nothing. It is what I could say.
Okay.
But the need for more is actually enormous. When you look at the buffer zones we have in the country and how much these buffer zones are protected, I mean, it is a very tiny percentage of buffer zones which are protected. Because as Jean-Paul was saying, we are looking about the topography because of the siltation coming from up hills, a lot of pressure from the agriculture, the human population density. So there is really a big need to protect these buffer zones, and the need is still very, very, very high.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Sam. Vincent, your question? Vincent, are you there?
Thank you so much, Jean and Sam, for the presentation. My comment or my simple question I needed to raise was, have you considered a way of how third party or other people may use the data, maybe through an API? For example, if some other organization builds an application or another portal, but there is some specific data they need to fetch from your existing system. So have you provided that so that if such scenario happens, you just give them access to API and they're able to fetch the data from your portal? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent. I have shown on the portal that there is a side where the users can sign in. When you sign in, you get your account directly, but you get the permission to download the data. You need to create account only. You create account, you are allowed, then you can access to the data. There is nothing else required.
Just if I can still chip in, I mean, if we have built, for example, an application, or for example, how we have done the freshwater biodiversity portal for Uganda, and there's for Rwanda, and you already have it in your application. So do you have such so that we are able to program our application to pick directly from yours without someone manually signing in and accessing the information? Just if that's more clear. Thank you.
That's a very good question. Currently, we don't have that option. What is there currently is that everyone has to sign in first. We have not explored the possibility to let everyone download and publishing without any permission.
Vincent, I'm not sure if is a constraint people to basically to say who they are, because there is no other condition except just saying who they are. It's a free access, but the putting who you are probably is not too much asking, unless we misunderstood your question.
Can I leap in here? Because I think it's something we've been grappling with a little bit with FBIS as well, where, you know, your system has gone to a lot of effort and put a lot of time and energy into bringing together data. And then obviously another project or another region may see huge value in getting a chunk of that data rather than, you know, remobilizing it into a second system. And it's about creating those connections. So if I use our own example with Hugo's and Sharon's project with Award and FBIS, you know, we're working where instead of us, our end users wanted to have some water quality data available. And we didn't necessarily want to include a whole lot of water quality data into our system, but Hugo's project had mobilized or linked to our national water quality database. And so what we did with the Royal We with Cartosa and Hugo's help is in FBIS now, you can actually link through an API and go and get that data that's actually sitting in another system, in the award system. So instead of, you know, duplicating effort on two different information systems, you kind of work together to share what you have and allow one computer or one system to speak to another. I don't know if I've expressed it correctly or whether if that's kind of what you were alluding to, Vincent, if that speaks to that question. And Hugo, if you want to add anything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, just to add, and I mean, it's a two-way street here. So what was really nice is, you know, Cartosa, obviously through the FBIS project with Helen and them, have now also opened up an API for us to be able to pull biodiversity data in, so that we can analyze it with hydrology. So these, you know, synergies between the two platforms become almost like seamless. You know, you can transfer between the two and it works really well together.
Vincent was sorry, before I come to Sarah, Vincent, did that speak to what you were asking? Kind of, obviously not the solution, but just in terms of the discussion. Sorry, you're on mute.
I think you have actually explained it. That's the core concept that I was actually trying to bring in, whereby some other application has come up and they want to utilize your data and they don't need to redo the thing you have already done. So they connect directly to your application. Of course, you give them access, so you know who is utilizing the data from time to time. Yeah, so that's the same thing, and it's something maybe to think of going forward. Thank you.
Yes, certainly something to collaborate on if you see the need, you know, for sharing those information. Thank you. Cyril?
Thank you so much. This is something to explore and discuss. Have a follow-up discussion with you or.
Perfect. Either just directly or we can have another. One of the things that I did mention at the start of today was, you know, if specific topics come up that we feel as a group would be useful to have a specific discussion on, we can facilitate that. You know, once everyone's from the projects and Astrid and what have you have provided their little presentations or their sessions, then we can open it up. And if there's a particular topic, like how do we, you know, best utilize APIs to create synergies between different projects without reinventing the wheel, I think that would be quite a nice topic for one of our sessions. So thank you for that good discussion. Ciro, you have your hand up. Would you ask your question?
Yeah. Okay, my question actually just is a follow-up on the API issue. And I just want clarification from Sam and Jean-Paul. You have the GBIF data, and I believe that probably it came in through an API at the beginning. So I would like to know whether that data that you are showing on RBBs is actually live, or is that downloaded and therefore it's lagging behind what GBIF is what is available on GBIF, or it's actually a live status of what GBIF has at any particular time?
Thank you, Cyril, for the good question. I have presented the data. As you can see, the data on RBMIS, those published by 5 partners. I mentioned the Center of Excellence in Biodiversity and Natural Resource Management, ARCOS, National Biodiversity Data Bank of Uganda, the Centre de Recherche Anciences Naturelles d'Oroino. Those published by these people, they are almost in 11 data sets. They are almost in 11 data sets, and they are from these 3 countries, Uganda, Congo, and Rwanda. So to other data, they are published, they are already on GBIF. They are already in GBIF, published from other areas other than Abertine Rift, from Great Lakes region, but also in other countries where we are not working currently, in Burundi, like in Tanzania, and in other countries. You see?
Okay, Sarah, does that answer your question? I think that's fine.
Yeah. For example, for Rwanda alone, we have almost 6,000 records. You can now see that they are those data published by COEB in Rwanda and also ARCOS in Rwanda. When you go to DRC, you can find also data published by ARCOS and data published by other partners. When you go to Uganda, you can see also data published, because they are also the name of the publisher. Yeah. But the purpose to publish on this IPT, it is to have this data directly harvested by GBIF portal. When they reach GBIF portal, they can reach the community globally. But also people who do not who are not aware of the GBIF portal, or who do not use frequently GBIF, they can immediately use RBMIS to get data in the region. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Jean-Paul. So we're coming on to 12:20. Are there any other sort of questions that are floating around, or shall we call this a fantastic start to our online seminars? Anyone else? Oh, Jeremy. Okay, Jem?
Cool. Thanks, Helen. Yeah, I can't resist one more question. Jean-Paul and Sam, you guys you've shown how long you've been developing the information systems in that part of the world, and how far you've come, and how productive it's been. A lot of us are newer grantees, like I mentioned earlier, and maybe just as a sort of final something to end on, is there any piece of advice that really stands out from your experience with developing your platforms that we can really take to heart and benefit from, and hopefully save ourselves some time and streamline our processes of developing productive information systems. And that can be any advice, whether it's sort of technical or philosophical or anything that sort of pops to mind as a pearl of wisdom that you want to leave us with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. I'm sure someone is going to compliment me, but this is a very good question that I have a piece of response on it. Yeah, you may see that this data, digitization of data from what we were used to know using the hard copies and putting in the libraries. This is a hard work which requires a multidisciplinary team, a work of multidisciplinary team from the IT persons. Currently, we have Janvier here on board, but in the past also we had someone who was assisting us on IT. In addition, we have been partnering with Mr. Ruben Robert. He's based in the UK. He's providing much assistance to everything regarding on IT side. It is going to require to have an IT person who is regularly going to understand how to do the backup, understand how to publish data, understand how to maintain the website when it is collapsed. But also, we have also to have someone who can manage data mobilization. Data mobilization is very key, but also it is challenging. As I have mentioned, the researchers and the different institutions, they host data in the libraries and they don't want to share. So to be able to get these people on board, it requires a stakeholder engagement strategy. You build a relationship with those institutions. You raise awareness, you show that there is no harm to share the data. You show the benefits to publish data. Also, you show them that they will benefit to be recognized and as the primary owners of the data. So it is a long process from bringing data holders on board, raising their awareness, managing the data they gave you, and having the IT who can publish them. And also it requires, as I have mentioned, it requires also mobilizing data to continue mobilizing resources to continue support the operations, the operational cost of this. The IT is someone who is expensive. If you bring the IT on in the organization only to work on the portal, it is costly. So you need to mobilize resources also to be able to cut off for all of the expenses related to. I'm sure some can compliment me if there is something I forgot.
I think you provided a very excellent nuggets of information there. I'm nodding my head, you know, in having experienced some of that myself. So that's a really, really good, valuable advice. Excellent.
Yeah, I like Jean-Paul said, I'm sure Sam has something to add. Okay, I think I was fortunate to get exposed to this wonderful experience of information management and information sharing when I was with UNEP WCMC. This was in 95, 2000, when I was the head of Africa program. And I think one of the probably success factors is to be, I'd say, to believe in what we are doing. I mean, outside here, you are not going to find many people doing the same. So it is good to be passionate about this. And being part of GBIF or this community, I think is a wonderful community that actually we could use more to work together. And when we were discussing how we can have synergies and so on, I think this kind of a discussion to share experiences, a meeting like this, we need this, because when we finish this, we're going to have a meeting, the government is going to call us for something else. We don't have so many opportunities to talk about information management and information sharing. So that's good. Feel part of this GBIF and this information community is an asset that we should protect and value. Secondly, I think it is very important to build the capacity, institutional capacity, because this is technical. You have to respect some standards. You need time. So I was happy to hear COWEB here in Rwanda that they have now good capacity. This is very, very important to have in the house. Our experience here at ARCOS is that one of our staff, Faustin, that some of you know, had to leave the organization, but because of some of the in-house capacity we had, so he didn't leave a gap behind, because we need in-house capacity. Number 3 is about the users. I think whatever we do has to be relevant to people, to the users, to the problems we are facing. So different projects, if we are lucky to grab a small project somewhere, it is good to relate it to a problem we have outside here. Otherwise, we will be seen as, these people are dancing, which dance, which song, and so we are alone. So we have to respond to the problems we have in the society. Very, very important. And another point is about this is a technical exercise, so it's good to make sure that the project has a budget for technical support. Is very, very important. So you do little, but it is done well. You make sure that you respect the standards, you make sure that you have a budget for it. It's very, very important to have this funding. And finally, we depend on funding, we depend on projects, so it is good to be accountable to the donor. And we have been working with GRS for 10 years now, and a donor will not give you a second funding unless he is satisfied with the first grant, second grant. So it is very, very important to remember that we use every little money we receive, we use it effectively. So these are a few thoughts I can highlight.
That's fantastic, Sam. Jem, I'm sure that ticks, or that the sharing of the wisdom from those who've led the path before us, I think is definitely going to be well received by everybody who's working in the field now.
Yeah, thanks very much for those insights. Awesome, thank you.
Wonderful. I think I should probably sadly end it there, but again, thank you to everybody. I'm seeing lots of thank yous and great feedback in the chats. This is the start of obviously many such sessions, and we'll become more and more familiar with each other and our projects, and hopefully, as we were planning on doing in 2020, create a community of like-minded people who have a common vision and goal. Even if we approach it from slightly different directions, we all have the same intentions, and I think this is going to be a wonderful platform for us to share and collaborate and create those synergies where possible. So thank you all for joining in. I really appreciate it. Next week, it's going to be Jeremy, myself, Tim, and Demos, who will share with you a little bit of our freshwater biodiversity information system. And we look forward to catching up in 2 weeks' time. So thank you, everybody. Wonderful session. Go well.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks a
Helen.
lot.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Thank you.